Hi, this is Yash, and here's my reaction to the qualifying for the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Let's start with Q1. The drivers who were knocked out were Alex Albon, Kimi Antonelli, Gabriel Bortoleto, Lewis Hamilton, and Yuki Tsunoda. The biggest shock for me was Kimi Antonelli and Lewis Hamilton. With Antonelli, you can understand that this was his first time driving here, and it being a wet quali, it definitely wouldn't have been easy. But with Hamilton, you definitely expect a bit more from him. Apparently, there was a bollard that was stuck under his car, which ended up kind of damaging his front wing, and so he couldn't put in a good lap. But it was he who hit the bollard, so it's ultimately down on him. In Q2, the drivers who got knocked out were Nico Hulkenberg, Lance Stroll, the two Haases of Ocon and Bamon, and Franco Colapinto. Not a lot of surprises here. Lance Stroll went on an audacious strategy to run the intermediate tires, whereas everybody else were on the wets. That didn't really pay off for him. Franco Colapinto could have disappointed Piastri by pushing him down into the bottom five for that session, but he ended up making a mistake on his final Q2 lap. And yeah, not a lot of surprises. And your grid for the top 10, you have Lando Norris on pole for the third time in a row, Max Verstappen alongside him, Carlos Sainz, who's set to receive a grid penalty. We don't know how many places it will be for. Alongside him, you have George Russell, then you have Piastri, Lawson, Alonso, Hajar, Leclerc, and Gasly. Not really surprising. Norris again delivering a fantastic lap when it mattered. He could have been on pole by more than half a second. He ended up making a mistake in the last sector, which is why he got pole only by 3 tenths, which in itself is quite big. Uh, there were quite a few speculations that Norris would be a bit more cautious and won't really push to the limit because he's leading the championship and he can almost sense the victory. But he was absolutely flawless today. When it mattered the most, he was very confident. And even though the car looked quite twitchy, I think that was the case with everybody. But Norris was able to get the most out of it, and in the end, he qualified on pole pretty easily. There weren't anybody else who was close to him. Verstappen was over 3 tenths behind, which is quite a big gap, especially in 2025. You have to give a big round of applause to Carlos Sainz for qualifying in P3. However, because of an earlier incident, it is likely that he would receive a penalty. The FIA hasn't announced anything, so we don't know as of now. But it's likely that he'll receive at least a 3-place grid drop, maybe a 5-place grid drop, depending on how the FIA judges incident. I think he was impeding someone else during Q2, if I'm not wrong. So we'll have to keep our eyes on it. The Racing Bulls have done a fantastic job. And Lawson and Hajar, they both are official rookies in terms of F1, and both of them ending up in the top 8 was very great and very good from them. It also helps them a lot in terms of the constructors fight. They are fighting Haas and maybe even Aston Martin and Sauber, but mainly Haas. And Haas is down in P13 and P14, whereas these guys are in P6 and P8. So they have a great chance to score some points over Haas and build a decent margin and secure the P6 in the Constructors' Championship. If you look at Ferrari, the moment it started raining, I knew that the dream was over. Um, they've It's actually quite interesting because I don't remember the last time when Ferrari were actually good and competitive in the wet, be it quali or race. So yeah, it always looked very tough for them. But Hamilton in P20 was a big surprise. I was expecting him to at least make it to Q2, um, but P20, and it's on pure pace. There's nothing that's happened to him. Obviously, he couldn't really put in a lap at the end because of the bollard stuck under his front wing. But even before that, it wasn't looking, anything it wasn't optimistic, to be honest. The laps were not good enough to be even in the top 15 for him. So yeah, I think either way he was going to get knocked out, but P20 is brutal. Uh, Apart from that, if you look at the McLarens, it was expected that they wouldn't be this good. I think the rain kind of helped them a bit because uh, it kind of equalizes the cars a bit, and the driver in the car makes a lot more difference. If the dries, I think McLaren would have been the third best car behind Red Bull and Mercedes, or maybe the second best car. But I was quite confident that Verstappen or Russell would be on pole if it was a dry quali. But in the wets, I think that kind of shielded McLaren's weaknesses. But tomorrow it's most likely going to be a dry race. So it will be very interesting to see who wins because you've got three different teams in the top three positions and all three drivers are capable of winning the race. Norris obviously has track position, but I think in the dry, the McLaren might not be the best car, at least in the start of the race. When the tires are cold and you got to bring in the temperature pretty quickly. And I think Russell and Verstappen might get a better start. Maybe as the stint goes on, the McLaren might be able to switch on its tires and maybe take them a bit longer, as you've seen in other races over the season. But I'm expecting Verstappen and Russell to have a strong competition for the win, and I don't think it will be as one-sided as it's been over the last two races for Lando. Apart from that, there are quite a few drivers who are out of position. You can say that Leclerc in P9 is definitely out of position. But more importantly, you have Kimi Antonelli and Lewis Hamilton who are in the bottom four. So you should see a lot of overtakes from them. In the dry, I think the Ferrari and Mercedes have a lot of pace, and these guys they should clear the other drivers pretty quickly and fight for points. And even Leclerc might clear the slower cars in front of him, like Hajar, Lawson, Alonso, all of these guys, and maybe fight for a top five position. It's going to be interesting to see what Piastri does because if he finishes in P5 or even P4, I think that's curtains for his championship. At this stage, he needs to be gaining points over Lando, not losing. And if Lando wins, or let's assume that he finishes in the top two, he would be scoring around 18 points. And if Piastri is in like P4 or P5, then he's losing further 6 or 10 points. 4 to 6 points. And that will be very tough to come back then for him. Apart from that, one interesting trend that I noticed was that all the rookies kind of struggled in this qualifying, and that's to be expected. All of them were driving here for the first time, and in the wets, it's definitely not easy. At least it didn't look easy. Even the most experienced drivers like Hamilton struggled. You had guys like Norris, Verstappen, Leclerc who were struggling with traction, and they constantly were drifting their cars. So you can only imagine how difficult it must be for guys like Antonelli, Bortoletto, and Damon, who haven't been here in the past. So as expected, they are in the lower half of the grid. You have to give big props to Isaac Hajar because although he got out qualified by his teammate, he's still not far behind in P8. So you have to kind of take notice of that. Apart from that, not a lot of surprises. I think we are poised for an exciting race tomorrow. I will be back with a short race review like this one. I initially didn't want to make this video because I intend to make videos that are more about other interesting topics in F1, and I don't really want to cover each and every race. We'll probably talk about that in the podcast or somewhere else. But this qualifying was really epic, and I honestly didn't expect it to rain in Vegas. That's what I saw in the weather, so it was a surprise, and that really spiced up things. And we've got a fairly mixed up grid. So it's set up really well for tomorrow. So I thought of, I thought I shouldn't miss this qualifying session. And now that I've done this, I'll probably come back and review the race tomorrow as well. But I don't think this will be a regular feature on this channel. But as usual, please leave your comments, your feedback, your suggestions, and your thoughts about this particular qualifying session and our videos as well. Do also let me know what type of content you would like to watch about F1 on this channel. And both myself and Ved, we religiously go through each and every comment. We try to reply to all of them, and if there's any feedback or suggestion, we try to take it on board and implement it in our content. So we'll do that even for this. So I'm looking forward to your suggestions, your thoughts in the comments, and until tomorrow, um, when I come back with the race review. We might also do a podcast before, but yeah, till then, I'll see you, and I hope you guys take care and stay safe.